Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and the reason I'm talking to you is because I'm more than 2 years into my Patreon project and have done pretty much everything I promised. There is a total of, oh goodness, more than 150. There's an awful lot of open source plugins out there that you can use, and they're for audio units and VST, and they are free. I only ask the people join the Patreon as if you were buying them at $50 a pop for the ones that you value the most. However, I've been discovering that, as far as this sort of thing is concerned, it seems that putting out a plugin every week, there's a limit to how far you can even take that. So if I want the Patreon to continue to expand, on the one hand, it could simply be a matter of just being patient and letting it grow, but also I'm looking for ways to try to do more. And for that reason, I've got some new goals in mind. And the goals have to do not so much with putting out more plugins, because it's kind of hard to put out more plugins than me. One a week for years on end means there's more than 150 of the buggers, and what I found that I was doing was doing a live stream. And I do this live stream at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time on Mondays, in which I take people's questions and help them understand what it is that they need or can do with these plugins. And it's turned into really kind of a thing. In fact, I continue by, as you can see with the studio and stuff, I don't just do this stuff as an abstraction. I do it because it's what I invented to get the sounds that I wanted. And I do a live stream on Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 11 in the morning. And that is a roughly 2-hour long just music jam. I may end up being able to see people's chat eventually, but for the time being it is just music only. And here's what I'm going to propose. If I hope to have this Patreon expand, I think it would need to expand in such a way as I spend more time with people and do more as far as putting stuff out there. So, voila. I have recently had my work featured as the topic of a New York Times op-ed about the loudness wars and the idea that music used to sound better back in the day. What you don't know from seeing that op-ed is that I went a lot deeper than just that. With the analysis work that I've been doing, I've been measuring things like peak energy, RMS energy. I have worked out a sort of color organ kind of thing where your hit record sounds might converge towards a balanced white color based on things like high frequency, slew rate, RMS loudness, microdynamics. And I've also charted things like slew rate over time and space between zero crossings over time. And you can see the results of these charts in some examples. It initially was called the 100 Hit Study. I'm prepared to bring that back as a YouTube live stream series. If the Patreon reaches $1,500 a month, I will add a day, and I'll start doing a live stream on Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time, which is the time that I picked because it reaches a number of different people. It's still accessible for, say, the UK and Europe and so on. It's reasonably accessible for the Pacific Coast, and it's handy for East Coast. It's around lunchtime. And I will be analyzing a minute's worth of audio from a whole bunch of different songs. I have 100 different albums that I can analyze. And I'll tell you the whole background behind this music and everything that I know about the recording of it. For instance, the one thing that you can see on this example is Led Zeppelin's Heartbreaker. And I'll explain things about how that guitar sound was a small amp lying on its back in the middle of the floor. Anything that I know about this stuff, and I've spent a lot of years learning about things having to do with audio, I will share, and I will go 2 hours on that sort of thing. But there's more. That is the 100 hits thing, where I'll be talking about history of classic albums and explaining how these classic albums have held up over the years in a way that modern music doesn't hold up nearly as easily. But if I hit $2,000, here's what will happen. I will begin also including patron submissions, and I will analyze a 1-minute snippet of your music in just the same way that I've analyzed these classic hit things, and give my advice and opinion on the sort of things that you come up with. That is at the $2,000 point. So I'm not worried about hitting that right away. That's just a goal to aim for. But one of the things that has become obvious to me is, since I'm doing this Patreon thing, and it's been wonderful, it is life-changing, and it is very wonderful and handy. It's all the things that the people at Patreon wanted to see happen. I've kind of given everything that I promised, in that I promised I was going to make lots of plugins for VST and open source, and I promised I was going to bring them to Linux, and I did so. And I promised I was going to do all of this stuff and make it all open source, and I've done so. And I think maybe things are stagnating a little bit simply because I have delivered so much on what I said that I was going to do, that me continuing to do it isn't exciting anymore. Like, it's becoming boring. Like, oh, there is another wonderful plugin from Chris from Airwindows, and I am basically Airwindows. Airwindows is just one person, and that's me. Oh, it's Monday, it must be another plugin. And people enjoy that, but it's nothing as exciting as something new happening. So, well, here we are. This can be something new, and for reaching $1,500 a month, I will start doing Wednesday as the 100 Hits live stream. And we can talk about, I will share all of my experience with you. This is a interactive live stream. It's not just a presentation, which is why it has to be live, is that I'll answer questions about things. And then at $2,000 a month, and I'm going to specify you got to be a patron at a level equal to or above the $50 a year that I tell people to join if you were going to be buying one of my plugins as a commercial thing. It's like people buy plugins all the time. My hope is that with the more than 50 that I put out a year, there will be one each year that will be so good that you would have bought it at $50 a pop, and then please to join the Patreon for that amount, and it gets spread out over 12 months. Hopefully it doesn't hit your credit card too hard for any given month, but the regularity of it is very helpful to me compared to the 10 years that I spent running Airwindows before then, which was just feast or famine, and it was crazy. We'll work that stuff out. But the idea is I had to come up with something more to do. And this is my way of trying to do something more for people beyond the enormous amount of plugins that I'm already putting out and the open source that I'm doing. And, I recently did Floating Point Dither. Floating Point Dither is public domain code. It's not even just MIT, which is already very permissive. The Floating Point Dither is about as open as you can get. It's unlicensed, which is public domain. This is what happens when you try to ask, like, what more can I do? How can I do more when I'm already doing so much? So what more I can do is give you more of my time. And that is the idea. So yeah, we'll see where this goes, because this will take me into an entirely new area, and it's actively doing stuff that is helpful, which feels good. So with that, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you later.